Hi everyone, welcome to 21st Century Saints. This is an episode that's been a long time coming. I want to give you all a bit of an update first about how things are going with the podcast, just super quick. We're going to be talking about the Epstein case and Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, who was formerly known as Prince Andrew. We're going to be doing that in a moment, but just wanted to let you all know we've been a bit quiet for a little while. We should be back at the beginning of the summer. We're just having a little look at what that looks like for us. A lot's going on for both Sarah and I right now. And big shout out to Sarah, who is in the comments. Sarah would be with us tonight, but she is incredibly poorly. She's actually sounding like a complete trooper, but her voice is going, and we don't want to put her under any more pressure than she already is. So get well soon, Queen. I love you. Yes, we also have our sister podcast, 21st Century Faith, that will be starting soon. You'll get to meet new hosts, new guests, and we're going to be looking a little bit about, we talk about deconstruction a lot over here on 21st Century Saints. We want to think about reconstruction and what that might look like. So yeah, we'll have some interesting discussions. But back to tonight. A few days ago, Sarah was traveling somewhere, and she was on the train, and we were having a conversation. And she'd asked me, "Do you have any idea how many witch faith communities, witch faith leaders, particularly the big faiths, the prominent ones? Do you have any idea how many of them have made a comment on what's going on with the Epstein case?" Now, I did a substantial amount of work on this, and what I can tell you is that the answer is none, not one. Now, there may be, and it absolutely is the case, that there are lots of affiliated blogs, podcasts, commentators who say plenty, who say really insightful, really supportive, victim-centered things, really zero tolerance things, which is exactly what we want to see. But when it comes to the actual leaders of organizations, people that we would expect to be offering guidance in the world today, silence. And I want you to keep that in mind for what we're going to talk about next. Now, this is actually going to be much more condensed. There is an episode that Sarah and I are hoping to do quite soon, which is going to focus a little bit upon perpetrators and what might be going on and what approaches are taken with perpetrators of harm. But in the meantime, I think it's really important because we, Sarah and I, haven't, although we work in safeguarding, although we talk about harm and abuse all the time, we haven't specifically said anything about this case, and we want to remedy that silence tonight and explain a little bit about why we haven't said anything up until tonight. Probably if we were podcasting more frequently, we absolutely would have. However, it is an omission, and so I want to talk about that tonight. Now, when a case like this, and I don't know that there's been many that we can point to that are like this, but when a case sits at the intersection of wealth and power and international jurisdiction, the public conversation can start to feel louder than the facts. So before we go any further, I want to set out clearly how we approach this topic as a British podcast. One that's committed to accuracy and safeguarding and survivor-centered storytelling. In the UK, when allegations of serious sexual offences emerge, particularly those involving children or trafficking, there is an investigative process that must be followed. Police evaluate evidence, interview witnesses, consult with prosecutors, and ultimately decide whether a charge is justified. And at this moment, it's important to underline something that often gets lost in the noise. No charges have been brought against the individual at the centre of current UK headlines, and that is Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. And he, it's very important to state, maintains his complete denial of any wrongdoing. And we are not suggesting on this podcast that he has committed any wrongdoing. So that's some legal jargon that you'll find, legal statement that you'll find most media organisations have to put out there. Under UK law, the presumption of innocence isn't optional, it's foundational. And that principle also shapes how the media must operate. So British outlets are bound by contempt of court rules, defamation laws, strict reporting standards when covering any ongoing or potential investigation. And that includes if we were to post something on our social media pages. 21st century saints, especially, we're not in the business of speculating about the guilt or of any individual, or of amplifying rumours, of naming individuals. And that's one of the key reasons why Sarah and I take the approach we do. As a safeguarding focused show, we talk about the systems, the processes and the patterns. We avoid the tabloid-like instinct to treat human suffering like entertainment. We don't identify victims unless they've chosen to come forward publicly, and even then, we avoid doing it for a wealth of reasons. And we don't place individuals in the spotlight when the story is better understood through structures and failures. That brings us to the wider global picture. Many people have asked why legal action and public scrutiny have unfolded so aggressively in parts of Europe, rightly so, yet appear completely restrained in the United States, where much of the original abuse perpetrated by Jeffrey Epstein and his collaborator Ghislaine Maxwell is alleged to have taken place. Now, some of that difference is structural. There are distinct legal systems and there are different thresholds for prosecution, different political wills to investigate networks of power. Some of it is cultural. European jurisdictions have been at times more willing to hold elites to account in a very public way, while American process has been hindered by layers of litigation, sealed documents, and claims of national interest. But no matter the jurisdiction, one truth remains constant. The focus should be on the survivors, those who've lived with the consequences of exploitation long after the headlines fade. And yet what we're witnessing right now is a legal ecosystem that appears once again to be failing them. Files released, cases stalled, institutions defensive, survivors unheard, or heard only when it's politically convenient. It's profoundly painful to watch a system respond to the suffering of real people with bureaucracy and delay and public theatre rather than meaningful accountability. And I want to address something else with care. The individual at the centre of this particular media storm has clearly been under intense pressure. Reports have noted the toll that it's taken on Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor's mental health. I do not rejoice in the joy of anyone who is going through pain or trauma, no matter how small, no matter how big. I'm not going to celebrate that at all, because, and I know that's a very controversial thing to say, but two truths can sit side by side: compassion for a human being in psychological distress, and most importantly, compassion and change for women whose lives have been shaped by violence, coercion, and systems designed to protect the powerful. It's the power dynamic. It's the ability to receive justice. It's someone who can sail through the world without accountability, with privilege. I want to hold that to account. I don't rejoice in any human suffering. Our own position, 21st Century Saints, as I've said, we haven't commented publicly on this case because survivor-centred media doesn't chase sensationalism. We wait for verified information. We avoid naming individuals unless it's necessary and lawful. And we hold fast to the belief that justice is rooted not in outrage, but in truth and safety and accountability. So if this moment is going to mean anything, it must be a catalyst for systems that listen to victims, that protect children and confront abuses of power wherever they appear, whether it's in palaces, governments, churches, or in the private world of the obscenely wealthy. And from a British perspective, that means demanding better processes, better safeguarding, better listening. It's what Sarah and I have been asking for. And we're asking for a justice system that proves it values survivors more than reputations. Its values at the moment are not clear to me. At the end of the day, all of this, every file, every headline, every inquiry should lead us back to one question. Are we finally ready to prioritise the people who were harmed? Because there's a deeper layer beneath all of this, something that's harder to look at, because it doesn't just involve individuals. It involves us, our institutions, our culture, our appetite for power and proximity. So let's start with the big question. So many American commentators and people who contact us drag out every time there's a royal scandal. Is this it? Is it finally over for the monarchy? From a British perspective, I think that question misses the point. The monarchy isn't going to disappear because of one scandal or even a cluster of them. But survival without reform, that feels increasingly impossible right now. When people lose trust, when accountability falters, when the gap between public behaviour and private consequences become too wide, something has to give. And it's not just the monarchy. Our government too is under scrutiny. When names linked to powerful networks surface, including political figures like Peter Mandelson, people look to Westminster and the government and ask, who is protecting whom and why? And where does the duty to the public rank when reputational management is involved? The truth is, these institutions, monarchy, government, global elites, don't crumble because of scandal. They crumble because they fail to adapt, they fail to reform, and they fail to centre the people harmed by their inaction. And speaking of reform, let's look at another figure in this web, Ghislaine Maxwell. Her ongoing refusal to testify unless there's something in it for her tells us something uncomfortable. And it's not just about her, it's about all of us. Because isn't that a mirror of public life? We don't demand accountability unless something forces our hand. We don't challenge systems unless it affects us personally. We don't push for justice until the headlines are loud enough or shocking enough or relentless enough to make us act. It's what you might call public impotence. We feel powerless, so we behave as though we are powerless. We wait for someone else to break the ranks, someone else to leak a file, someone else to launch an inquiry, someone else to demand the truth, someone else to start a podcast. And powerful people like Maxwell understand that. They rely on that. They know the public appetite for accountability burns hot, and it burns out quickly. But there's another truth, one that sits in the shadow of this whole saga. Epstein didn't just groom children. He groomed adults, powerful adults. People flocked to him. They wanted his money, his parties, his influence, his proximity. They wanted to be in the room. They wanted to be close to whatever it was that he represented. Wealth without limits, access without accountability, privilege without question. And it's easy to look back now and say, how could they not see it? But systems of harm are seductive. They are designed to feel exclusive, desirable, and safe until suddenly they're not. And if we're being brutally honest, society grooms us too. We're conditioned to admire power, to excuse it, to get close to it, and to believe that the powerful operate by different rules. We are groomed to look away. And that should chill us just as much as any headline. Because grooming children isn't just something that happens, grooming isn't just something that happens to children. It happens culturally. It happens politically. It happens quietly. It's the slow numbing of accountability, the gradual prioritizing of comfort over truth, the belief that if a system benefits us, we should leave it unexamined, that if a person is charming, wealthy, charismatic, connected, if we feel the spirit whenever we speak to them, they must be safe. And that's why survivors keep telling us you have to stay awake, you have to stay engaged. You have to stay committed long after the scandal fades. And that brings us to the call for accountability, the real one. Let's ask the question nobody wants to ask since the original Epstein-Maxwell case. What has actually changed in global anti-trafficking work? What policies have shifted? What protections were strengthened? What prevention systems were modernised? What cross-border cooperation has improved? Do you, listening right now, do you know the answer? Because the spotlight swings wildly from scandal to scandal. Each time we think we've learned something, the cycle resets. Trafficking continues. Exploitation continue. Networks are really good at adapting. Money moves and systems rebuild themselves faster than the outrage does. That's why the outrage is bloody useless. Because if we're honest, many of us follow the headlines until the next crisis demands our moral attention. But dismantling harm isn't a moment, it's a commitment. It's a policy, not panic. It's about education and not speculation. It's safeguarding. It's not sensationalism. It's listening to survivors, not waiting for the next celebrity to come and drop. It's pressing for reform in a palace, in parliament, in policing, in media, and in public behaviour. We are either doing this work or we're not. There is no middle lane. There's no ethical soft play area where we can say we care about survivors but refuse to confront the systems that harm them. Accountability is a choice, and it's renewed daily. It's defended publicly. It's lived out constantly. It's what we do. It's what we breathe in and out. It's the water we swim in. So if we take anything from this moment, from the headlines, from the hearings, from the public anger, from the documents slowly coming to light, still slowly, let it be this: outrage without action is just noise. But outrage without commitment is useless. Outrage with commitment, that is how systems change. And survivors deserve nothing less. One day the survivors will look back and ask us what we did in this moment. God help us if the answer is nothing. Thanks for being with us tonight, and we will see you soon.